In order, we'll begin with the pledge to the flag, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'd like to welcome a new member of the commission this evening, George Haddon.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We swore him in earlier, so. Would you call the roll, Jess?
Mr. Perkovic.
Here.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Here.
Mr. Varga.
Here.
Mr. Cicero.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Haddon.
Here.
Mr. Snow.
Here. Entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of January 23rd.
So moved.
Second.
When
Mr.
you're
Perkovic.
ready.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cicero.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Abstain.
Mr. Snow.
Yes. We have 4 public hearings this evening. The format we follow for the public hearings, we allow the applicant an opportunity to tell us what they want to do at a location. Then those wishing to speak in favor are afforded a similar opportunity. Then those wishing to speak against are given an opportunity to speak against. Or maybe they just have questions. So we'll get the answers to the questions. So with that in mind, conditional use permit to allow a wellness center as a similar use at 70, I'll put the glasses on. 7533B Tyler. Is that applicant here? My wife does some teaching at your other store, so with that in mind, I'm going to recuse myself from this deliberation. So,
Okay, my name is Candace Berthold, and I'm here tonight representing my business, Synergy Wellness.
so give us a little overview of what you'd like to do at that location.
So this would be a center or an office where my clients can come for health coaching or other types of services related to wellness. It's by appointment, anywhere from dietary consultation, removing toxins from their home or from their diet, just good lifestyle choices.
Okay, at this point, I want to turn my portion of the meeting over to Mr. Cook. So, anyone wishing to speak in favor?
Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against?
Okay, we'll close the public portion.
Close the public hearing. Any questions for the commissioners?
Kath, anything you would like to offer?
No, nothing other than the conditions noted.
Comments? Any comments?
Comments?
I'll motion for approval with the, did you read the 5 conditions and you understand the conditions?
Yes, I did read them. I do understand them. The landlord was unable to be here tonight due to a health issue. I did text him regarding the conditions, and he did text back that he will restripe and properly mark the parking lot as the last condition states.
Motion with the 5 conditions.
Second.
Jess?
Mr. Perkovic. Yes. Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cicero.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Second is a conditional use permit to allow a recreation facility at 8820 East Avenue. I see that applicant's here. So give us a quick overview of what you'd like to do at that location.
Okay, hello, Rick Osborne Jr., and we are representing Rock City Sports. They intend on, and Dan can bring up more about some of the specific questions, but that you might have. We have reviewed the staff report. The owner has reviewed the staff report, and we're in compliance with the recommendations that the staff has had. And I'll turn it over to Dan to answer any specific questions related to the facility.
Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against? Okay, we'll close the public portion. Any comments from the administration?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to point out and ask the applicant to elaborate a bit on some of the conditions that we have presented, namely the parking lot concerns that we have, and also some of the items that were outlined by both the building and the fire department with regard to the fire rating of the building, et cetera.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Currently, the building is sprinkled in certain locations. The back section that they're going to be occupying is fire protected, and it is sprinkled. There will be a hallway approximately 10 feet that'll lead from the parking lot to that back space, and that will be rated. We'll have to do some type of assembly, probably drywall, and but it will be rated. And as far as the parking lot, we know there's some striping and some directional arrows that need to be done, and we're okay with doing that. And as far as there was a concern about the well that's there, the well currently is just there, and the intent would be to either cap the well or to put a fence around it to make sure it's safe.
Does that answer your question?
Well, we did note as the one specific condition with regard to the parking, we wanted a layout and just an analysis. One of the items that we pointed out in the analysis above the conditions was, if the facility was intended to be used for tournament play or league play, just in my own personal experience, I know those types of facilities can get very crowded in terms of parking needs. So if they could maybe talk a little bit more about their intended use of the space, who's going to be using the space, and the volume of folks that will be there at any given time.
Okay.
Dean Bezick, I'm the owner of Rock City Sports. I can speak to that in that primary use of the facility in the evenings, especially, will be for girls volleyball club. There, we do not anticipate doing tournaments at this facility. So we will have teams, we'll be doing training. Most of the kids get dropped off. Some parents stay, the younger kids' parents stay, but there's typically not a huge volume in those conditions. Again, a lot of the girls get just dropped off and picked up at a later time. Other than that, during the day, there will be the activities going on will be spread out. We are going to have some pickleball courts, but we don't anticipate, again, huge tournaments or anything like that. Just maybe mainly daily play and occasional small tournament, that type.
So the building is vacant at the moment?
It is, correct.
Okay. So is the reason you picked this building is because it's a little less expensive than the normal retail?
Well, no. Buildings with ceiling heights high enough to have a volleyball go up and down or don't grow on trees. So this particular portion in the back of the building has about 22, 23-foot high ceiling, and that's high enough. So there are very few buildings with this type of height requirement that needs to be to, like I said, have a reasonable ability to bounce a volleyball, play volleyball.
So how do you address the parking situation? You said you won't have any tournaments?
No, we are not planning on having,
So
some facilities have like 16 team tournaments and there's 200 kids with
Right.
200 parents, 400 parents, and that's
I know
not.
we've run into that situation in other areas in the city, and it becomes problematic. People are parking on the street, and East Avenue is not a particularly wide street, so. Commissioners, questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Varga?
there was one of the diagrams that was provided, this one here, I believe that is showing us where the exits are. I don't know if you have that one. This one here. Typically, when you exit out of a building for emergency purposes, the idea is to get to the right-of-way, to a public right-of-way, so that you can get out off the property. How would that work? I'm looking at the drawing, and it looks like is it possible to walk to the right-of-way? Is it, because it looks like there's a depression next to the existing building. And I just want to verify.
Yeah, there is a number of exits in this back portion.
Right, it looks like there's 4 exits.
Correct.
And
yeah.
I'm just, my only concern is exiting the building is one thing. How do you get away from this building back to the public right of
So
way?
you would have to go through the back area there, and then it is not fenced, so you could definitely exit and head towards East Avenue.
Okay, I mean, that's, and I'm assuming the fire marshal looked at this, concerned himself with exiting?
Yeah, that is one of the items. And that would be, any of those particular items that you're bringing up would certainly be followed up at the time of the building permit
Okay,
issuance.
all right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just, Chair,
Mr. Cicero?
are you intending to have AED devices? I thought there was a mention, and I didn't see it as a condition. I just want to make sure that,
Yeah,
be
for sure.
available.
Definitely have one of those.
Okay.
Absolutely.
yeah, I'd like to just add that as a condition.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
I
and
think we'll
definitely
add
wanna-
the condition
definitely wanna have one of
also that you won't have any tournaments,
those. Okay.
okay?
Yeah, that's not bad.
So, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with 10 conditions, the 9th being AED and the 10th being no tournaments.
Second.
Kath, you feel comfortable with the parking situation?
Well, we did, again, in item 6, we're asking for an updated parking lot layout, which we would require as part of that building permit review. I guess in clarification of the no tournaments, I think the applicant had mentioned pickleball during the day. Are we just saying all-inclusive, no tournaments whatsoever? Or maybe just for the sake of the applicant, do we want to clarify what that means?
That means no tournaments,
None.
none.
Which, if we wanted to define, we could say competitions with more than 2 teams. That would, to me, define a tournament.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So competition with no more than 2 teams?
Yeah, so if you have a pickleball competition or a volleyball competition, if there's 2 teams, that's okay.
Yeah.
But more than that would be considered a tournament.
That's fine. That's fine. Again, the main purpose is for training purposes.
So, let me ask you one other question. Do you operate anything like this anywhere else?
I am the assistant varsity volleyball coach at Lake Catholic High School. I own my own business. I'm a financial advisor, so I've been in business for a long time. But I've coached in this environment for about 15 years, so I'm very familiar with it.
Gotcha.
And I have
Okay.
some staff that will be.
Okay, there's a motion and a second.
Mr.
Call the
Perkovic?
roll.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes,
Mr. Cicero?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Hadden?
Yes.
Mr. Snow?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Conditional use permit to allow a church at 7643 Lakeshore Boulevard. I see the applicant's here. Brought the billable minutes, billable hours.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is John Monroe. I'm with the law firm of Mansur Gavin. We represent the church in Wycliffe / the church in Mentor. I'm joined by Don Abate, that's Abate, and Steve Gibbous, Gibas. I'm also joined by either the owner or the owner's representative. Okay, the owner.
Greg Bolefeld, Bold Investments.
We're here this evening seeking a conditional use to reuse an existing church at 7643 Lakeshore Boulevard for church purposes. The church in Wycliffe was established in January of 2012. It's a non-denominational Christian church, approximately 50 members. The congregation is growing and was looking for a new location. As you all may know, this church was formerly used as the Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, sold to the current owner in February of 2019. The church in Wycliffe, when they move to this location, will most likely merge into its other entity, the church in Mentor. They plan no exterior alterations. There are 47 existing parking spaces. The church in Wycliffe has services every Sunday at 10 a.m. They last 1 to 2 hours with 25 to 50 worshipers. They also have prayer meetings on Tuesday evenings with 10 to 15 individuals and some other church-related events. Consistent with the staff report, the church would agree to the 3 proposed conditions, which are to provide appropriate handicap parking and signage, 2, to file an application with the building department to reoccupy the existing space, and to 3, install the required bicycle rack. Based on this, we respectfully request that the commission grant a conditional use permit to reuse an existing church at this location at 7643 Lakeshore Boulevard.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against? Okay, we'll close the public portion. Kath, this was a church, as they indicated prior to this, so nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed, pretty straightforward, church for a church.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go right
It's
ahead.
just a clarification. You've shown us a diagram of the floor plan of the facility. It shows a main entrance and it shows double doors coming out of the multipurpose room. Based on the drawing and where the sanctuary is, doesn't seem to be any exits shown. And I'm assuming there are some, but they're not shown, and I just want to verify that there are exits coming out of the sanctuary area too.
Yes, there's a single entrance, single exit door in the sanctuary.
Out in the back.
Yeah, it's towards where the altar.
Well, excuse me, in the front of the building, that would be on the, let's see, the southeast corner of that chapel, there's an exit door right there too.
Okay, so I just want to clarify we can hardly see that. Are
Consulting
there
architect
exit
is
doors
there.
here? Are there exit doors here?
No, it'll be.
No,
it'll be
you're
towards
talking
the-
about something
yeah,
back here?
It's on,
That's the,
Yeah.
that's the corner.
yeah.
Okay, but it's marked as an exit, and it's an
Yes,
exit
yes,
from this area.
yes.
So you have two exits from the sanctuary, one to go this way and one to come that way.
That's
Okay.
correct.
And as you mentioned, that multi-person has double doors, as does
Right.
the,
And you can exit in two directions, right? No, I just didn't see it, and I just wanted to verify it was there. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Entertain a motion.
A motion with the three conditions.
Second.
Just when you're ready.
Mr. Perkovic?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Cicero?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Hadden?
Yes.
Mr. Snow?
Yes.
Thank you, ladies
Thank you.
and gentlemen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Conditional use permit to allow automobile repair shop at 7337 Clover Avenue, Corvettes, Cleveland. If you'd identify yourself for the clerk, please.
Bob Poltrona, Corvette Motorsports, applying for a conditional use permit. I'm going to be moving my business from Pinecone over to Clover.
Okay. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against? Okay, we'll close the public portion. Kathy, any concerns at their current location?
No, there are none.
Okay. So, commissioners, questions for the applicant, if there are any?
I just have one quick question. You mentioned that there'll be no painting
Oh,
in
no,
the, where's the painting done? Do you,
Frankie and Dylan's.
okay, so you sent it to a
Oh,
totally
yeah,
different
yeah.
place? Okay.
They do a
Thanks.
great job, by the way, so if you're
Thank you.
looking to get a Corvette painted, I recommend them.
So, no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 8 conditions.
Second.
Comfortable with the 8 conditions?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Mr. Perkovic?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Cicero?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Hadden?
Yes.
Mr. Snow?
Yes. You're
Thank
all
you.
set, huh? Under old business. Conditional use permit to allow automobile repair shop at 7457 Clover.
Oh, that was the second part.
Sorry.
Number 6.
So number 5 is a duplicate of?
It needs to be dismissed. It was the old incorrect reference.
Oh, the address and the property number was, okay. Entertain a motion to take it off the table.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Perkovic?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Cicero?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Hadden?
Yes.
Mr. Snow?
Yes. Now I'll entertain a motion to dismiss it.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Perkovic?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Cicero?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Hadden?
Yes.
Mr. Snow?
Yes. Item 6, conditional use permit to allow an automobile repair shop at 8330 Station Street. We're going to dismiss that one too, right? Is that the intent? Is the applicant here?
Well, we're recommending that the application be withdrawn until the property owner comes into compliance with the conditions made part of the existing conditional use permit.
So how long are we going to give them?
But we are actually our code enforcement supervisor has been actively working with the property owner. Progress has been slow, but they are making some progress. And Tom Vermelli has been in ongoing contact with myself and Mr. Paul Miller with regard to bringing that property into compliance. Part of the issue is getting title to all of the cars before removing them from the property and taking them for scrap. And so they're in the process of doing that. They have. There has been some movement on the property. We did document that this week. So I think just hopefully with our persistence in reaching out, we'll give them a little bit more time. Otherwise, we'll take additional action legally.
So formatically, how do we deal with this? Do we just dismiss it tonight, Mr. Zeman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, if it were denied on the merits, it'd have to wait a year to come back. So I think they're making progress per the administration's statement. So what I'd recommend, if the commission desires, is to simply dismiss it without any adverse finding. If at some point in time, therefore, the property is deemed in compliance, then perhaps an application could be filed at that time.
Okay. I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to dismiss.
Second.
Mr. Perkovic?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Cicero?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Hadden?
Yes.
Mr. Snow?
Yes. Architectural review reimaging of a 71 Johnny Cake by the church. Is that applicant here?
Missed one.
Reverend, nice to see you again.
My name's Garrett Lapping. I'm with 6 Minute.
We skipped one.
Skip 7.
Okay. We'll do number 8 since you're up here.
I can't handle this.
Go ahead.
Well, my name's Garrett Lapping. I'm with 6 Mo Architects. I think you know Pastor Ken. We are here seeking approval for the.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, sir, but if you don't speak into the mic, I can't even hear you, and I'm
Oh,
fairly close.
I'm sorry. My
Thank
fault.
you, sir.
We're here looking for approval for the exterior renovations to the Brentmore School, turning it into Life Point Church.
Okay. Commissioners, questions? Mr. Varga?
Yes. In general, I'm looking at the images, I'm just looking for some simple questions.
Sure.
The images that are shown, these, for your purposes, okay, they're up there. They don't show much of a trim at the top, a coping. It shows there's a little line there, but it's not anything compared to the existing coping.
The intent there is for it to remain existing around the
That's
top.
right. I
there, yeah.
just, sometimes it's just the way the image comes out and it's,
Sure,
you know.
sure, absolutely.
Now, the images up here also show that the bottoms of all these panels are cut straight across in all locations.
Yeah, that's
But
actually.
the existing is sculpted, or is scalloped.
Scalloped, yep.
So you're going to do that.
And well, what we're going to do is we're going to bring in the composite trim to go around the bottom to kind of match that
Okay.
coping around the top, and just to give it the appearance of that nice kind
Okay,
of
now,
flush.
again, just clarification.
Sure.
All right. And then, it looks like you're going to paint then the entire building.
Yeah, the intent is to do kind of a darker gray along the bottom masonry all the way around, and then we'll do a lighter gray on the top.
I have a reaction to painting masonry and concrete, and I'll just get it out there, and then others can speak to that. Have you considered staining the masonry and not painting it? I have a problem with painting brick that's part of wall construction. In many cases, it seals the brick. The brick can no longer breathe. And moisture can't move in and out. The brick never dries out. The paint chips off after a number of years. Is there a possibility of being able to stain the brick instead of painting it? Staining goes into the brick. It doesn't necessarily seal it from being able to breathe. And the same for the the precast panels up above?
It's absolutely something we can look into.
Instead of,
It's not
instead of
something we
painting it,
consider.
to stain it, and then, I mean, there's a lot of folks that don't want to see brick change color. They want to see the original color. Is there any consideration for doing this, but without painting or staining the brick? I don't really have a problem with the concrete panels up above.
Well, I think the intent was just to, because we're bringing in a lot of these more contemporary materials, the intent was to kind of maintain that language and kind of, just bring the building up with the rest of the new construction.
And of course, I understand when you do an image like this and you reproduce it and you put it on a piece of paper, and it always looks darker or different.
Sure.
The two colors that you show, the samples are almost the same, though the image is, one's lighter and one's darker. Okay, you have some
I
samples
brought
there?
these, well, yeah, I don't know if that helps at all. I guess.
Yeah, those are pretty close.
Oh.
But in any case, the concern that I personally have is to get away from painting masonry, painting concrete, and to stain these products. It looks more natural, and it may actually last longer than paint based on the construction of the wall.
I have a question. Have you given any consideration to leaving the brick alone?
We considered it. It's just, again, it was kind of an attempt to bring the rest of the building back to kind of the more contemporary construction that we're putting around it. So rather than, we were trying to avoid just looking like we were kind of popping these things out. We were trying to bring kind of the rest of the building back to a nice clean, nice clean contemporary look. But at the same time, we chose the colors we chose just because, it's going to be a slightly darker around the base, a little bit lighter around the top, but ideally we wanted to kind of make the building blend in a little bit more with some entrances pop off. I think one of the biggest issues that this building has is its street presence, because all the entrances are generally along the east, kind of the long side. The only street presence it has is kind of that end of the building right there. So one thing that we were kind of shooting for was to just really give it a street presence. And that's kind of how we ended with the beach wrapping. That'll kind of draw your eye in from the road, and then as you're in, you get kind of that contemporary canopy entrance in the middle of the building, the welcome sign, and that sort of thing. So I think the intent for painting in kind of a neutral color like that was to make the entrances really it gets a little bit hidden when you have such a high contrast down below.
Do you have an architect or with you? You're the architect. Okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure who. So if we made a condition that this would be done in this format with staining rather than painting.
It's certainly
Do you
something we
think-
can look into, yeah.
I mean,
I don't know off the top of my head what the potential options are, but.
And you understand my point of view is that
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if this is a cavity wall or not, or if it's a composite wall, but once you paint it, you inhibit the moisture, and, 6 years later, the paint's coming off, and we don't want to see that.
Sure.
We don't, and same with the concrete. I don't know what's behind it, but it's porous now, and so
Yeah.
I'm going to propose that as a condition.
Yeah, we
You can do the same colors, but to do
Sure.
it as a staining.
Yeah, we can absolutely look into that. I know anything that we put on there would end up being a very specific masonry coating or a very specific concrete coating too, so.
Is there any comment from the city on that approach?
No objections at all. I think, overall, we were very pleased with the
And the
proposed
look.
design and the look of the improvements, so we have no objections.
And I don't want to speak for the rest of the commissioners.
And
on that issue.
I think that's a great, I just have one question, especially now that I see the colors. The side you're not showing of the building, the side that faces the mall area.
Sure.
Do you have any contrast on that besides just the two grays? I mean, are you using any other coloring?
Well, it would just, it's very symmetrical, built, with the exception of the gymnasium coming out.
Right, I'm just talking about the appearance of it. If it's only gonna be those two grays, can you add some kind of, even add your other colors? Some kind of contrasting to make it a little more attractive from
I see what you're
the
saying, because
people
there's
that
no
are in that
entrances.
shopping area when they're looking at the building.
Got it. Yeah, we can certainly take a look at something like that. I mean, something like
Yeah,
sanctuary.
if you added,
Yeah.
what, you know, I'm not gonna say how to do it, but if it's only these two,
Right.
it gets kind of boring from there. It looks like a big box.
Yeah, and just kind of looking at the elevation. More
scarlet and gray.
You know, we can.
More scarlet and gray is always good.
It's always good.
Which, by the way, we didn't do the Mentor colors.
Looks an awful lot like scarlet and gray to me.
Kathy said, I like the design. I like what you
We're
guys came up
biased,
with.
you know. One thing too, that actually, just to throw this out there, that I noticed that was on the report, that end, that south end elevation right there, it's got two doors flanking the big window in the middle. That's actually, the intent there is for it to be a glass overhead roll, the inside and the outside to that little patio out there. And I know in the report it says that it's a window, but it's actually glass overhead. I think it's a little more clear in the exterior elevations, but for some reason it didn't.
Oh, okay.
That's,
You're talking the front, the south elevation?
The very front.
it's facing Johnny Cake?
Right.
Is that, okay.
It's under that, yeah.
So that right now is, there's no door there, right?
Right.
Okay,
right.
so you're.
There's just
so
all windows.
We're knocking out all the landscaping that's there and the grass and,
Yeah, there's going to be a patio if. I guess you can't quite see the bottom elevation there, but there's going to be a canopy that comes off of the front.
Larry, can you go back where the pictures were with the, yeah, right?
Yeah, there you go. So that top one right there, that's probably the best.
So that's what's facing Johnny Cake.
Yes, yes.
In relation to.
So Larry, go back one more slide, the existing, or I'm sorry, forward one more.
There.
So this, yeah, right there, that's what it looks like right now.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to take those existing openings, and we're going to turn two of them into doors. And then we're using kind of the scale of those existing openings in the middle to put an overhead garage. So that little strip of brick in the middle will be gone. And the two windows closest to the middle will be gone as well. And that'll be an open.
Not going there.
So you feel comfortable that you can come up with a staining on on the brick?
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly take a look at it. I have reps at Sherwin-Williams that are pretty good at coming up with.
Well, should we table it until you make the final presentation on the color, on the staining? Or do you feel that if we make this a condition and those are the colors that you can meet that? I'm looking at the city, I'm looking at you, both. I mean, because if you come back and say, well, we can't do that, then the conditions of doing that will invalidate the approval.
It's not necessarily
What do you guys want?
Do you have a feeling one way or the
You want to see it
other?
again?
I mean, certainly, if you move forward with the approval now, if there's a real problem and he has to come back with something alternative, he would just have to come back to you. But,
Okay.
you know, if we
That's
put that as a
fine, that's fine.
condition,
Yeah,
That works.
then, let's see.
Make it a sixth condition.
Yeah, sixth condition that it's that in lieu of paint, that the coloring of the concrete and the masonry be done by means of staining.
So you're gonna put the burden of proof on the guy from Sherwin-Williams, huh?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think we can. I've seen a lot of materials out there. It's just I don't know 100% what colors in terms of that. So it's but I'm confident we can come up with.
Well, we'll
an
make it a
alternative.
condition,
Yeah.
and that, if you can't make it, then we'll see you again. Right.
Sure.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, it's a motion to approve with 6 conditions, the 6th being the staining.
Is there a second?
Second.
Jess?
Mr. Perkovic?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Cicero?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Hadden? Mr. Snow?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now we'll go back to number 7, final subdivision to create 5 industrial lots of Mercantile in Hamilton.
Chairman Snow and the rest of the commission, good evening. George Davis, I'm the property owner.
Okay. So what are we doing?
There's virtually no changes from the preliminary approval, so we're just hoping that we can ask the commission to grant approval. We did have a good meeting with staff today, and I think we could possibly, maybe Kathy, eliminate some of the conditions, I believe.
Go right ahead.
So as part of our meeting today, there were a couple of items discussed, namely, if you note in item number 4 of the proposed conditions, the administration was recommending the reverse curve on Mercantile be redesigned. And they provided evidence based on the speed of the roadway and the actual radius that they felt that the reverse curve wasn't necessary. It also is in keeping it in line with the curve of the creek. And so by keeping it in that reverse curve fashion, if you had seen in the improvement plans, otherwise the space between the roadway and the creek would just be dead space. So that's why they felt that curvature in that direction was much more in keeping with the creek flow. We had talked about, so the 2 points were that the 200-foot radius and the reverse curve as is be approved. And our engineering department weighed in. Tangents are required on super elevated reverse curves, and this is not the case. This is not a super elevated reverse curve. And so in this instance, it's not required. Again, the engineering department was comfortable with leaving the design as is if the commission felt that was appropriate. Oh, the second item to talk about was item number 2, the Mercantile Drive from the existing Mercantile was actually designed as a 65-foot right-of-way. We conditioned that it be 60-foot. It's our understanding that the utilities desire to be within the road right-of-way. Therefore, that's why that the 65-foot is being proposed. And there are no objections, and it is not in violation of the code. So that condition would have to be.
Mr. Novak, anything you'd like to add?
Again, my name's Dave Novak, Barrington Consulting Group, 9114 Tyler Boulevard, Mentor, Ohio. I just want to get that in there.
No commercials.
No, again, we had a great meeting with the staff today, and you know, the 2 things that Kathy pointed out, again, we'd like to have, you know, number 2 and number 4 removed as conditions.
Okay. Kathy, is that okay with you?
That works.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
I just have one question. I know this is Phase 1. Are we still anticipating Phase 2 to be the way it was initially proposed, which is a continuation of the roadway to a cul-de-sac?
We're in deep and final negotiations with a large user, and it will be a cul-de-sac. It probably will be a shorter cul-de-sac.
Okay.
So we'll be coming back fairly quickly with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. We're going to delete 2 and 4.
Yes.
I'll make the motion with the 3 conditions.
Second.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Cicero?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Hadden?
Yes.
Mr. Snow?
Yes.
Thank you, I really appreciate it.
Architectural review, reimaging of an office building at 7200 Center Street. Is that applicant here? Mr. Meyer.
And this is Steve, seriously, one of the people from Platinum. So, I don't know if we can show the drawings on this table. We have the existing.
Sure.
I mean, this building is, it's the existing Polo building that's there now. You know, it's got a little run down. It's mostly empty. It's been divided over the years into a number of little spaces. The Platinum Realty Group has purchased a building. They're putting their headquarters in on the second floor of the building, and they pretty much are gutting the inside and redoing offices for a different tenant base. And mostly, so they wanted to change the color of the building, which is Platinum has offices pretty much all over the country. Their headquarters is here in Ohio. It's currently in Willoughby. They're going to be moving into this building as their headquarters. The biggest thing about the building is that the old front staircase that comes down to the parking lot is a totally exterior stair. It's taken a beating over the time in the weather. It's not in good condition as far as bringing the public up the stairs in the wintertime, like on days like tonight. So our initial reaction was we'd like to remove the stairs and build an entranceway with an interior stair. But underneath that stair is a door that comes in underneath it, and all the electrical for the building is underneath that porch and underneath those front stairs. So it's a very daunting idea to remove the stairs in the room with all the electrical in it. So the alternative is to enclose the stairs and create a new entry element that comes down. The stairs themselves would stay, they would recover them. We'd build walls up on either side of the stairs and create the new entrance element that you see in the rendering. The rest of the building, the parking lot would stay the same, the parking spaces, drives in and out. So the black is the Platinum's colors. And so being their world headquarters, this has identified them as their building, and hopefully makes it look more elegant than it does now.
Okay. Questions, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I have some questions. The first thing that jumps out at me is parking, and first I have a question. I look at the plan, and it has 14 spaces on one side of the driveway coming in. The current, when you pull into that, this area here, oh wait, now, let me see where we're at here. Is that different than the one I'm looking at? Yeah. This shows this line, that only has parking on this side. But in fact, this pavement goes all the way up against the building or close to it.
There's a landscape bed between the
Well, I
building
see,
and the parking
yeah.
lot,
But I also see in this image, parking on both sides of the road.
yeah, that was
So-
artist liberty, but the parking is only on one side.
All right, and it shows that the asphalt going considerably further back than it shows here. Okay, all right, well, that confusion about what's parking. The concern I have about the parking of this front area, these 14 spaces, is that with the building addition, with the enclosure of the stair and where the east wall of that enclosure, the furthest east, allows for only, I believe, an 18-foot driveway. But we know now that we need to put bollards to protect the building. Right now, someone could back their car right into that window. I mean, there's no protection of the building from people driving or backing up in that parking lot. So if you put a couple bollards or 4 bollards, whatever is necessary to protect the building from people backing into it, you may be down to 16 feet, maybe less, as a two-directional driveway. And I don't think that's sufficient. I mean, I think that's a problem, because typically a two-directional driveway for perpendicular parking is 24 feet or 22 feet, something like that.
Right.
And we'd be down to less than 16 feet. So the question I have is, is it, you know, I mean, we're looking for.
Had the discussion that it would be pinching the driveway down and that,
But it's gonna pinch it down more when you put some bollards in there, because the bollards have to be, allow for at least 2 feet behind the bollard, so a person can't get caught, they'd be able to get behind it.
So we have
you're
discussed-
pinching that down even further to the point where it's not even 16 feet. And the parking spaces themselves, how big are they? Do you offhand?
Standard, 18.
Okay, so what I'm saying is you can't back a car straight up, back out of a parking space, you'll be only 16 feet there. I mean, I know you turn, but.
Could remove a couple of those spaces in
Well,
front of that.
that's kind of.
we've had that discussion.
This
that
is
they could
kind of where
remove
I'm going.
spaces And even take those spaces and turn it into like a
Something.
landscape island
Right. Well, let
in the
me-
parking lot that would allow.
I mean, I was looking, I'm always trying to figure out, you know, trying to help, solve it rather. But I see this as a problem, this narrow, you know, and I never give the benefit to the driver because they'll always do the worst thing possible, right?
Understood.
So the fact that there is room, I believe with the way this wall is, where the parking is and the pavement is now, to do the double loaded. If you did double loaded coming up to the door and you stopped, you wouldn't have to do any parking to the north of that. You could even put the doors in the front. You could put an entry plaza or something in front of it. You don't even, I mean, I'm saying,
The parking from the street side to the building side and park on either
well,
side of the
do on
new
both
entrance?
sides, because I think there's room for that. And then not even extend the driveway past the addition or the door. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
And then you could put the doors on the front as an example, and you wouldn't have these little doors coming out the side. And again, I'm not trying to, I'm just saying, I've thought about this a little bit. I'm saying, if you want 14 spaces, you can almost get all of that and not have to go in front of the addition with the driveway. So I'm gonna ask you to look at that.
Okay.
I'm not trying to resolve it right now.
That's a
But
good
you,
idea.
you can see what I'm saying, that actually, when I saw this, I'm saying, well, if you can actually get parking there, then you don't need to extend it in the existing parking area. That could be planting, that could be landscaping, that you could have an entry plaza in front of the door. You put a set of double doors in
The outside
front.
face of the addition is about a little over 22 feet from the building, so we could fit parking between.
That's what I'm,
Yes.
yeah, and I think, actually, if you go there now, it's striped that way, or it was striped that way a long time ago. So, I mean, so I think that's why you got that impression.
Okay.
In any case, I'm suggesting you look at that and resolve that in a way that you don't have any conflict. You're not leaving it up to the agility of the driver to get around and hopefully not to do stupid things. And that way you could not have to have bollards in front of the addition. You could put the doors on the east face, you know, and you could landscape that corner and make it, you know, make it nice. So that was my thought. That's the first issue. So I'm going to ask probably for you to come back and restudy that so that the plan works. So the other thing that people reacted to, I'm looking at is, you know, boy, that's dark. And so you're saying that that's their corporate colors?
That's
They-
correct.
They have black buildings, and so they want this to be a black building?
Like all of our signs, all of our advertisements, all of our business cards, everything is black. And we do that because we do a lot of high-end luxury properties,
Mhm.
and we feel that the black color is luxurious and elegant, and that's what we'd like to reflect on our building also.
Well, I'm going to go back to then, let's say black is fine. I'm going to leave it open to anyone else's opinion. I'm going back to the thing I stated at the last reviewer, and that is, I hate to see this stuff painted black. Can you put a stain on it's basically concrete, right? Reinforced or precast concrete pieces?
It's stucco, it's ephes or.
Oh, it's ephes,
Yes.
okay. Ephes is a little different, yeah, you don't.
Well, it can be painted. And again, we met with
It-
the representatives from Sherwin-Williams,
Yeah,
and
if it's all ephes,
It's being black, that's a darker color, and they
Okay.
looked at the
All
control
right,
joints.
if
and
that
everything.
was actually precast concrete or something, I'd actually suggest you try to stain it. But in fact, if it's all ephes that
And
we're
I
looking at.
understand the staining. I agree with you. They really shouldn't paint masonry.
Good. Good.
And yes, and I don't know if you could stain
Okay,
red brick
that's
gray,
great.
but
Yeah, I think you should do
I know
just that.
those fellows from that church. I was planning to call them in the morning and saying that staining is.
Yeah,
is a
staining
viable
is the way to do
solution
it. This painting brick and, you know, masonry and concrete is a
there. Yeah,
bad
you're not
thing to
supposed
do.
paint masonry.
I know. I know, okay, well,
I
good.
agree.
All right. Well, okay, so this is all EFS, and painting that is not an issue?
It's
because
not an
that's
issue.
already
They-
assumed.
They've got a warranty on the paint that
Okay.
they've chosen.
All right, well, those are my comments. Here. Right, open
So,
up.
all the landscaping still there?
The landscaping is mostly gone. It was well overgrown and in bad shape, but they plan to put in all new landscaping.
Okay, how about the street trees?
They're still there.
Okay, and how about the big tree?
That's gone.
Okay,
We had somebody come out and look at that because it was up against the building, and he told us it was mostly dead and had insects and it needed to come down, so.
okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
a question for Kathy. This is Old Village
Yes.
zone, correct? All right. Because I know there's a
Well,
mention.
not zoned,
Oh,
but just from a
it's part of
design
the Old
standpoint,
Village
yes.
core.
Core.
And this doesn't seem to match what we're thinking of with Old Village. That's my concern. A big black building, and then we have red brick, red brick, red brick. We just had somebody across the street that painted their building and went through this. So I'm concerned with the color.
Is the Carver building not black?
I don't think it's
No,
black,
it's
but
not.
the glass is dark.
Yeah, it's a gray
And
arch
I
front.
mean, if it was a traditional looking building as part of the old Menard, I guess I would see that, but it's a contemporary looking building now. It's already not necessarily what you would put maybe in the old Menard area. So I think the black is a little more elegant than what the colors are now.
Oh, don't get me wrong, I'm happy
Certainly,
to see somebody doing
it
something
would
with that
look
building.
nicer than it does now. So it's great.
How long has the building been there?
Built in 87, I think.
So is that before the Old Village design guidelines?
Oh, for sure.
94.
Yeah.
Okay. So it wouldn't have mattered at that point,
Right.
so,
So we're trying to deal with something that's already there.
right. What's the pleasure of the
Hopefully
commission?
making it much nicer than it is now.
I agree with Mr. Tiedemann. It's not that, I mean, I think it's a nice-looking building, the way you've designed it. I just don't think it fits what we're trying to do there. I just, I was looking at your logo and that you use black, sometimes you use silver. Maybe there's a way you can accent the building, so it's not just this dark black and,
Our other issue is that this building is extremely stigmatized right now. I mean, it's been completely vacant for so long. We really feel that we need to do something so that people understand that there's a change and that it's under new management and that, it's a luxurious Class A facility now. And we feel, it really needs to have a wow, significant change that people can notice when they drive by.
Again, I don't know that a different color would necessarily
Yeah, it
suddenly
just-
make it Old Village material. I mean, it's a contemporary building that they're trying to improve what it looks like now.
We could maybe bringing actually the paint samples in with the next revised submission, that might help.
Could you look at something else? I'm not telling you. What happens if you have that centerpiece with the sign on it, with the curved roof on the top and the addition? And what if that was black, or if it was important that the sign be on, that remained black? What happens if the rest of the building is, I don't want to say almost like a dark brick color, but, all of it the same color except for your highlights that are black?
I mean, honestly,
I'm
we
not-
have our hearts set on black.
Okay,
and
no,
we're
I mean, I'm not.
trying to work if we can.
I understand, I understand. I'm looking for,
You could pronounce the white around the windows a little more.
well, that's aluminum, yeah.
And the windows are
Are you
silver
retrimming
aluminum
those now? Are
Pardon
you
me?
just painting those, or are you gonna retrim?
Oh, they're gonna still be silver.
That's aluminum.
I'm not sure it's fair to hold your feet to the fire on the Old Village when your building was built a number of years before the Old Village zoning or design guidelines.
I don't know that you can take, or it would be right to take a contemporary building and try to turn it into a more traditional building just because of where it's located.
Well, in any case, I'm going to make the motion that we table this till you come back with a site plan and the revisions that we were just talking about initially. Can we do that? Is that,
And if we could bring color samples back
And color
also,
sample.
that might be helpful.
Well, we submitted a color sample and the stone sample, I have pictures of the color.
Yeah.
I mean, if you'd like to move forward with, this, you know, they're
Okay.
working on the drawings and the design because it's empty now and they're trying to move into it.
What if
can
we,
agree on the look of the building, we could certainly relay out the parking lot and
we
bring
have
that back.
2 levels of review here. We're looking at the architectural review, and we're also looking at site plan, right?
I thought it was just
Architectural.
re-imaging tonight,
Oh,
but.
just re-image, well, but
Your
the,
suggestions are valid.
yeah. I mean, I'd like to see how the site plan works out, because it.
We'd be happy to come back with the site plan and see how that works out.
Okay, so how about if we
Do
approve?
re-imaging and we'll come back for a site plan approval because
Right.
now we're going to be changing
Changing the
which
site
would
plan.
require a site
And
plan
this
approval.
actually changes it without realizing it, but
Yes.
the site plan, I would just like to see it resolved. And at that time, if there's any, change locations of the doors or something in this front piece, you can reflect that too.
right.
So okay, so let's approve it for architectural review or re-imaging only. Is that all right? Can we do that?
What are you gonna approve it to? The black?
Yeah, unless there's a pushback, I'm looking at the rest of us here.
I'll go with the black.
I'll pull back. I'm fine.
All right, so let's go with the imaging that's there now.
That would be wonderful.
And,
And we'll resubmit
And
for a site plan
site
approval
plan
and come back
approval
with
and-
rearranging the parking lot.
right, and I would suggest that gives you a nice landscaping opportunity up there next to it. And, okay, yeah, so just re-imaging for now. All right, so were there conditions? 6 conditions. And,
Oh,
But
hold
the
on,
conditions-
hold
I don't
on.
know if you need 4 if you're
Right.
doing.
yeah,
You can remove 4
the
for now, and
bollards.
that can always be added later if you feel that's appropriate with the site plan.
right, yes, we don't need that. Okay, so it'll be 5 conditions. So approval of re-imaging, architectural re-imaging with 5 conditions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before we finalize that, I'm okay with the 5 conditions and with the black, but could we put a comment in there that while they're coming back with site plan and so forth, could you just look at some alternate color schemes that would include the black as well as maybe something, a secondary color? I don't think that would hold up the process, but
That's
great.
thank you.
That would take care of your comment.
right. Right.
You agree with that as the applicant?
I don't understand.
Well,
what
I
the-
think you're saying that if
How can we?
their
approve
heart's
it?
set on black and they can't, and we don't come up with any alternatives, that it's approved, but that
How do we approve it? in that
look at other alternatives in the meantime?
Approved or it's not approved?
Give me a landscape. What if we, will there be a landscape plan as part of this? Because I think the pictures you presented, if you have all that color in front of the black, it looks nice. But if you end up with just a bunch of dark green, it doesn't. So maybe the condition is how we landscape things, that creates
And
some
that would be the
contrast.
site plan.
Yeah,
approval.
so in the site plan, that'll come forward.
Okay.
And is the parking lot asphalt or concrete now?
Asphalt.
It's asphalt now?
I believe it's asphalt.
I think you can make the black look good with the right.
It's old asphalt. that
Faded
we
asphalt.
had to
Yeah.
resurface, so-
Yeah, so they're cleaning up the parking lot too. But the first rendering came back with all green in front of the building, and the owner asked that they put in some different landscaping with more colorful, so they're on the same page as you are as far as
Oh, and-
they want to
I
add
think,
that
I think
splash
that
of color
helps
to
the black. I think that helps.
And I think if we abandon some of this parking to the northeast corner, you could introduce a lot more landscaping. That would be a lot more interesting. Where we're not going to put the parking, past the entrance. That
Oh,
gives you,
around against the building?
that gives you an area there where you could almost create a little pocket park almost for the, and it could be quite attractive. So let's put that off for the
We're
site
working
plan
with the
review
landscape
and
architect
landscaping.
to do landscaping. That's part of their concern is
Okay,
to
and the fact
give
that
it
we're
that new
looking
look.
for a vibrant and lush landscaping, maybe we could make that a condition.
Just one more item. Item 3 is really a site plan issue as well. So if you just had 1, 2, 5, and 6 as part of this approval, and then that we can reincorporate that into the site plan review.
Okay. So we're looking at an architectural reimaging with 4 conditions. And you'll come back with a landscaping and site plan development detailed out.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jess, when you're ready.
Mr. Perkovic?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
No.
Mr. Varga?
Yes?
Mr. Cicero?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Hadden?
Yes.
Mr. Snow?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll be back with, for site plan next time.
Thank you.
Okay. Informal rezoning of 14.5 acres from R4 to RVG. Mr. Novak.
Good evening. Again, my name's Dave Novak. I have the owner here, Todd Victor. As you can see by the plans that we've submitted, we have a piece of property that's a little over 14 acres. To the north is RVG, to the west is currently zoned RVG, and to the east is Route 2. We're proposing 36 units on the property. As part of this development, we're, again, preserving or staying away from all the wetlands to protect that feature of the property. There is a creek that passes through near the point of the property towards the south end. And we realize that this is an informal discussion, but we're just trying to get your input and thoughts on it.
So you can show us how it could how it could be developed under the current zoning.
We can, but
I think that's part of the criteria.
Yes, I believe it's one of the conditions. And we can surely do that, but it's going to be, this property, just by the characteristic of the shape of the property, and with the existing wetlands that are on the property, to try to preserve those wetlands and still put, half-acre lots,
I understand.
density is going to be next to nothing.
That's still something we'd like to see.
Yes, and we can provide that.
Okay. Commissioners, questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Varga.
There's 2 things that I focus on. One thing is you do have and I don't have my glasses on. Let me see what you call it. You call it a pavilion.
Yes.
And I'll just say it's in the wrong place. It's in everybody's backyard. Okay. It is necessary to have, because of this constraint of RVG, that there needs to be some public recreational space, usable space. I don't find a pavilion in people's backyards a usable recreational space. Certainly not for the people whose backyards they're in. So I would ask you to find a more functional or useful place for that, though it is, I don't want it to go away. I'd like to see it so that people could, for instance, if they wanted to bring over a picnic and some people, that maybe there's even a place they could park in the cul-de-sac or something and unload and go to some place where they could have a community activity without being in someone's backyard. It's a little tough with this plan because a lot of it's people's backyards, but that's part of the RVG thing, okay?
Correct.
So that would be a major concern. I'm going to look for some better solution to that. Just like you have to have a mailbox location, that's just part of it, right? This is something are you the builder or just the developer? You're gonna build them too, okay. Well, this is an issue I have just in general with these developments, and you tell me where I'm wrong here, or why this wouldn't work, or, there's a number, well, see, this is different. Do you have this up on the screen, the one that we have, the plan?
It's hard to see.
It's
Well,
hard to see.
Well, that's it? Boy, that looks different. Okay, there's a number of houses, because of the way you have the site plan arranged, and I don't really have a problem with that, but, for instance, this is a side of a house that faces a right-of-way, right here, okay? Here's a right-of-way, here's the side of a house. Here's another house with a side that faces the right-of-way of the cul-de-sac. Here's a house with its side facing the right-of-way. And when I say side, what I really have a problem with, the kind of environment that's created, is that you end up with a sea of vinyl on these sides with no windows. And I understand when the houses are next to one another, you don't necessarily want windows looking into the sides. But when the side of the house faces the right-of-way, it doesn't seem to improve the environment to me to just have a wall of vinyl. And there's another house here, for instance, this one, the front of it's here, this whole face faces the cul-de-sac right away, which means that when you're in the cul-de-sac or you're in any of this space, you're just looking at a wall. The side of a house is just a wall of vinyl. No windows, no architectural detail. Usually it's the side of the house, it's not gonna, and so I'm throwing out to you, because this is informal, so I'd like to, can there be some way to enhance a handful of 4 or 5 houses so that when they're built, those faces are more architecturally acceptable or more pleasing, or they have windows, or, something. I know that's not the plan with the rest of the houses, but I'm talking about when you're in the right-of-way and you look at this house and all you see is a wall of vinyl. Is there a way to enhance that?
No, I agree, and I think that on those, for instance, a simple thing we could do is we could make those side-load garages. So again, that you would break up that long
That's something,
wall.
right, that's something.
Because again, instead of having the garage come out on the main street or this, you could surely have it come out on the side, which again, you're probably going to have a gable there or something, so it would help break up that that facade, so you don't see that long.
Designs that we have planned, probably that will be going in there, and, break windows on that side, we usually put 2 windows on that side.
Yeah. Well, you understand my concern.
No,
I'm just talking about the general, when you drive around the neighborhood and you're driving around and you're looking, and you start seeing these huge walls of vinyl with no windows, no articulation, it just doesn't look really good to me. And I'm saying, I'm not asking you to change a whole lot, but I'm saying if there's, as you develop it, those lots are designated to have some kind of treatment on the sides they're almost like corner houses, right?
Right.
So that they have an appearance value on both faces.
No, I think we would want to do something like that again, because it's going to, if it looks better to the public, it's going to be more pleasing to the residents within the development. So again, but I mean, like I said, a simple thing would be to just make it a side-load garage. Again, that would help break it up.
But I mean,
Again,
for instance, on the second, if it's a 2-story house and you have a bedroom in that corner, you have a bedroom front window, you could add another window. I mean, I know you guys have these things factored out to the last quarter, but you could put another window in the sidewall, and it would be a nicer room, and it would look nicer from the outside,
And again, when we come back to speak with you formally, we could surely bring some pictures of some of the houses that we have planned for this development, just to show you again the character and so forth that we're proposing for here.
Yeah, just as an informal response, that's one of my concerns with these kinds of developments, especially with it being so tight, that you're just, I just don't want to see from walking down the street looking at this huge wall of vinyl. Okay?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The surrounding neighborhood is RVG, Mallard Court and all that. I would like to just see a continuation of the neighborhood that's there. Make it look like the rest of the neighborhood. come straight in and straight down, exactly what they did, match the existing layout of all the property around it to make it look like it's integral to the neighborhood, is what I would like to see.
I'm not quite sure I follow. I mean, a lot of the roads within this development are relatively straight roads. Again, with this development, you know, we're trying to give some character to the streets, but probably more so is we have some environmental issues. I don't know, I don't really want to use that word, but, you know, we have some wetlands on this property that we want to preserve, and the trees within those wetlands will be protected. So I think it's a good balance, the development that we're proposing in keeping those trees, those wetlands, working around those things. And again, I think that's in keeping with the RVG because it's,
I
we're
mean, you might
protecting-
not get 36 lots, but you might have to leave, you might just have to not have 36 lots.
We could surely try to develop it with a, you know, with a straight street coming in and over, but
Like, pull up the GIS of what's there.
no,
and
they're
try to
actually
match
showing
the-
it up on the
Try to
screen here.
match the pattern of what is already there to where it looks like the rest of the neighborhoods that are already there.
And without trying to sound, you know, the existing character of the neighborhood is very bland in my opinion. I mean, it's just straight parallel roads, not a lot of pizzazz. And, you know, I think having more curvature to the street, things like that, really adds character to the development.
Well, for me, when I drove down it, it didn't even look like an RVG to me until I pulled up the zoning, because it had the characteristic of, has the characteristic of an R4. I mean, when you drive up and down Dave Lane and the other one just to the west, you can't really tell the difference between the lot size when you weave your way through there. I don't know, it's informal. I just like you to take another look at your layout because it seems awful tight. There's no sound wall there either. So these houses are going to be right up against Route 2. And I'm on board with Jeff that, you know, a pavilion against the highway is not what I believe in keeping with the Village Green.
And I will agree that the location of the pavilion is.
You might have to drop a few houses to make an open space amenity for the people that are going to live there.
And again, ideally, where I would like to see the pavilion is probably, you know, in the middle of the property, we're showing the detention basin. Again, if we could, if that detention basin ends up being a wet or a pond, I think it would be more ideal to have it there, sitting next to the pond, overlooking the pond. But again, you know, as you can see the pond, we're trying to squeak it in between.
Well, I get it. It's a unique parcel, so, you know, everybody's got to enjoy this amenity and not feel like they're in people's backyard. Sublot 20 shouldn't feel like they're in the people's backyard to go over to the pavilion that's behind 17, 18, and 12. You know,
Again,
it has to be enjoyed by all, and
I mean, there's even a possibility we could put it in that triangle, but part of the reason we're trying to, you know, again, there are some of the requirements as far as the protection zones and so forth that the city of Mentor has to protect that creek, and we want to protect that creek. You know, to try to put a bridge over that, you know, if we have to stay out of all those protection zones and so forth, you know, that bridge could be 80 feet long, because I believe you have a 25-foot protection zone in either side of the creek. I don't know exactly what the width of the creek is. So again, to make a structure where we don't interfere with those things. But again, I think we agree that the location of the pavilion is not the best. And I'm sure we can come up with a better location.
See, I think Mr. Cook has a valid point, and I'd like to see, you know, when you're doing the R4 under the current zoning, you know, lay out something that satisfies Mr. Cook.
Again, realizing that, you know, what we're proposing here now, because the RVG next door, those are public streets and so forth, and what we're proposing here is not public streets, they're private streets. So, again, the character and the feel of this neighborhood is inherently gonna be somewhat different than Mallard Creek and the rest of that development.
I would just be a little careful as you're laying the houses out. I mean, just as you have it laid out, when I look at like 18, 12, it just feels like those are getting jammed in a little bit.
Well, again, without a sound barrier, 18 is going to get to listen to the freeway constantly.
So, I mean, if this is how the streets go, because you're protecting land and that, I would just be really cautious how you lay the homes out to make it flow. Because right now, the way it just feels a little disjointed.
It's a little tight.
Yeah, and I think if there were, you know, maybe you still get 36 homes in there just laid out a little differently, I don't know. There's some areas that that are very tight.
One of the other things that I think you need to be a little bit, when it comes to these are building envelopes, so
Yeah, no,
so these square boxes that kind of make it look more dense, maybe, is not really true. Because
Sure.
again, those are just the envelope with which we can build the home. So I don't think it's going to look quite as crowded when you actually have homes. And again, the depth on a lot of these envelopes are probably greater than is necessary for the homes that we plan to build.
And if you have a couple different style homes, maybe you dictate what style home falls in
Sure.
certain areas.
Envelopes drawn at 45 feet wide, and most of the plans are 40 feet wide. So the extra 5 feet,
That'll give more.
they stay with the standard plan.
So do you have enough to work with what?
Unless the board members have any other comments. Again, we'd surely like to get any of those comments out now so that we can at least try to address them or say why this doesn't work or doesn't work when we come back.
I would love for you to save as many trees as possible. The existing neighborhood, lots of tall, big trees. So if you could save a bunch and don't make this neighborhood look as stark when you pull up and there's nothing there. Save as many as you can. That's what I'm asking
We will
for.
do that.
I have a question for the city, or just a general understanding. So these streets are not going to be dedicated streets, but the streets that feed this are dedicated. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So just for my own edification, so the city snowplow is out there tonight. He plows to the property line and then stops?
Yes.
And then they have to get their guy to show up and continue plowing? All right, just how exactly that works, because it to me is a little.
This is kind of mimicked after Marshview Landing, Creekside. Again, those are
No,
both.
I'm just for my own edification to understand it.
Right,
Though
the plow would go-
they're both RVGs, these are dedicated streets, these are not dedicated,
Correct.
so that's one of the differences. And just from a maintenance point of view and from a snow plowing point of view,
They're going to go down Mallard.
garbage collection,
That's
All
us.
private, right?
all private, so it's a separate thing. So the garbage truck just doesn't go down the street. All right,
No gate.
I got it.
Right, no gate.
No gate.
I have
Can I
a
say
question.
that? Can I say that again? No gate.
I have a question for Dave.
We don't want a gate.
Dave, on the site plan, the cross-hatched areas, is that what we're talking about, that is actually wetlands?
That's correct.
Okay, so the bulk of that center area there where you've got the stormwater management, that's where you're working around that wetlands, that almost seems to be that's the core of the public space.
Yes.
Just, yeah, so I think that, some of us are corrective, just different placement of those houses, that could really open that up. as an amenity, so. Okay, just wanted to confirm that.
What is the, for what reason do you not make these dedicated streets for this plan? What is the reason?
Well, currently we have, I believe they're 22-foot wide streets. It may be 24, I can't remember. And then we have from the edge of pavement to the front building envelope is 22 feet. If you went in and you put in a dedicated roadway, 60 feet wide, and then put another 12, well, actually 12 plus another 3 utility foot easement on the side of those. Again, it would be almost impossible to get, I doubt we'd get half or even less than half if we went with a dedicated street.
I'm just wanting to air that out as to what the reason, because even though the adjacent areas are RVG, they're also dedicated streets.
Correct.
And so this is a difference between what's existing and what's being proposed, and I'm just trying to see what the motivator is for that. So basically it's numbers of units. If you had to go in there with dedicated streets, you'd lose a good number of your
Yes, because
your
again,
properties.
even if we went, I mean, when we prepare the R4 plan to demonstrate.
You can
Again,
demonstrate that.
but even when you're coming off of Mallard Creek there, with the wetlands on each side, and if you put a 60 plus, you're gonna have a 90-foot width through there with
understand.
right-of-way and utility easements, and then you're gonna have to have some setback.
I'm just asking the question because this is the time to ask it, that's all.
Right, I'm just saying, if you're preserving those wetlands, you can't put a house, there won't be enough room to put a house.
Anything else? We'll see you again.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Zeman, are you up next?
I believe so, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Members of the Planning Commission referred to you as agenda item number 11 by the City Council, a potential code amendment to section 1137.08. Planning Commission is probably pretty familiar with its current version, which is that when rezonings occur, the development plan becomes a part of that ordinance, and that binds future development of those rezoned lands in perpetuity. And there often is a request for changes, even after the rezoning has been approved, and there is the phrase substantial agreement. And whether or not a proposed amendment is in substantial agreement with the purpose and intent of the originally approved plan is something where the Planning Commission has now final say. If it finds that it's in substantial agreement and it can approve that modification can then go to permit. If it finds that it's not, that really sort of stops the whole process, and that applicant then would potentially have to go back and get a brand-new rezoning. The council has requested the Planning Commission's recommendation relative to a change where, rather than the commission having final say on such amendments, and we're talking about, again, legislatively approved development plans, it would make a recommendation, and that recommendation would be positive or negative to the City Council based on its judgment as to whether or not any proposed changes are in substantial agreement with the purposes and intents of the rezoning and that development plan. Once it's on Council's agenda at that point in time, it would have the final decision. The idea, just to summarize it as best I can, is that, again, these rezonings are legislative acts, and changing any portion of those ordinances, including the development plan, may be something that the council wants to take a fresh look at, since again, it does have that legal effect. So, if you have any questions about it, I'd be happy to answer them, and I would request some action tonight if you're ready.
Comments, questions?
Let me understand. I mean, not that I don't understand, but just to discuss it. So we could, a developer could come to us and want to create part of the plan, and we'd review it for conformance to the plan and approve it, but the council could change that approval. Is that correct?
Correct.
I mean, that's what this would mean. Conversely, we could review the plan for conformance, say that, no, this is not in conformance for whatever the reasons were, and make that recommendation, and that could be overturned by council to approve it. All right, I'm not sure what our role is at that point, because at any given point, what we do would be reversed, or could be reversed.
Yeah, the role essentially is as it is when you're first looking at the rezoning. And as the commission's aware, you're making a recommendation to the city council. Should the rezoning be approved or not be approved? Because as you know, even a negative recommendation on a rezoning does go to the city council. And so, again, it's a very important role that the commission still plays in providing that guidance ultimately to the city council when these proposed changes are made.
But what I was kind of emphasizing the point, what happens when we approve where there's not changes being made, where they're in conformance and we vote that they're in conformance, but the council could reverse that and say that they're not.
There has to be a change, otherwise it wouldn't be in front of anyone. Again, we're talking about modifications to a legislatively approved development plan, and the question is the nature of those changes in substantial agreement with the original approval or not? That recommendation, positive or negative, would go to the city council.
Okay. I understand. I'm just trying to feed through, because if we approve something that it's in conformance, we're not changing anything. Somebody makes a partial development plan, we're going to get this, we don't know what we have on our minds, but we get a partial submission or something, some part of a plan, and we look at it and we say, oh yeah, that's in conformance with what had been approved. But you're saying that the council could reverse that. It just seems to be counterintuitive at that point as to why that would be.
What was the impetus behind this?
There's no specific impetus. Obviously, with some fairly significant projects on the horizon in Mentor, and there has been a history of debate as to whether or not a rezoning ever contemplated a certain modification in the future. It's just a situation where I think, and I'm just trying to summarize the public comments that the council made. I don't intend to speak for any members of that body tonight, but I think the public comments, would reflect that council takes, its legislative role, and that these changes affect that legislative role. And it may want to have, it may want to have that ultimate oversight. It has not, via this referral to the commission, made a final determination. Again, the next step would be your recommendation would go to the city council, and an actual ordinance would be drafted for its ultimate action.
So in the past, this commission just made the final decision when there was a change in development plan, correct? And it was done.
Correct.
That's what's changing. Okay. I just want to understand it.
So are you looking for action tonight?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman.
I'm not ready to give you action tonight. I don't know if anybody else is. I'd like to leave it alone, quite frankly.
Well, it's just a positive or negative recommendation. If the commission feels that the status quo and the manner in which this ordinance currently operates should be preserved, obviously we'd recommend that the council not make any changes.
It's up to you. You're the boss.
I'd like to leave it alone.
Well, you can certainly table any action on it tonight.
Is that a motion? Mr. Cook?
Motion to table.
Second.
Mr. Perkovic?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Cicero?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Hadden?
Yes.
Mr. Snow?
Yes. Beth, anything out of the director's report?
Nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
Picture, picture.
Let's go take a picture.
Take a picture.
Yeah, we gotta take a picture. Is the guy here?
The guy.
The guy.
Is the guy here? The guy. There's the guy.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.